Hello everyone, Dr. Judy here, Dr. Judy WTF, and it's nice to be back on the show. I just want to acknowledge my audience and let you know how meaningful you are to me and how meaningful it is when I get calls and acknowledgments and beautiful letters. Thank you so much. It's such an honor to work with people all over the globe ever since I've stated that my intention is to go more global. Well, indeed, I and the team have gone global, and we see people, we Skype with people all over the world, anywhere from Australia, Saudi Arabia, Spain, England, Denmark. It's just really quite something for me to see the mind map being disseminated all over the world. And I have a special request for everyone. Please, please, please download the book, Be the Cause, Healing Human Disconnect. Ask for a free consultation. Once you have downloaded the book, please then pay it forward and send a copy to all your friends, your colleagues, your bosses, your husbands, your wives, your children. We, the team, and I want to get the message out as to the system of healing human disconnect, which I am going to get into. The name of the show tonight is Vampiring Effects of Narcissism. Why is it that the narcissistic system gone wrong is so vampiring? And we're going to get into that. And just the fact that the most popular shows that we post are about narcissistic injuries, people who've been injured and then display narcissistic personality disorder or signs of narcissism, or the people that pair with them, hook up with them, and then get literally vampired and depleted. There's so much energy around this subject, and there are so many injuries that come out of this that I thought it was worth exploring, specifically the vampiring effects of narcissism on globally, because it seems to be a global epidemic. And for those of you who do not know, my life coach, it's Epstein, is leading a narcissistic recovery group every other Sunday. The webinar starts at 3 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. And for those of you who live in the local Los Angeles, San Fernando Valley area, he holds the group every other Sunday from 7 to 8:30 p.m. Contact the clinic and we will give you information. And also for those of you who would like to start your healing process, can't necessarily afford a big budget, just call us and we'll figure out a plan for you. We do have people who work at different fee scales. And of course, you know that we have the Mind Map video series that I'm holding at the discounted rate of $195. And it is me breaking down the mind map into the 9 panels and psychoeducating you to heal your childhood wounds, break them down so that you can break through and morph out. And this is a call-in show, everybody. So please do call in. Pick my brains, I don't know, brains. Anyway, ask me questions, 323-843-2826. So I want to go through the mind map and break down the system gone wrong and why it's an epidemic and what it is that is so vampiring about living with a narcissist, and ultimately being a narcissist, and how eventually the narcissist, when they run out of steam, will also break down. And the song that I'm going to shrink tonight by Metallica, one of my favorite songs called Unforgiven, describes the the devolving of the narcissist and how eventually they go pretty dark and run out of energy. So let me start by describing the mind map, which is a system that I created initially to heal global disconnect. And I figured out soon into the process of wanting to heal global disconnect that it's important to start by healing individual human disconnect on a micro level. So it became my micro process for processing therapeutically, and what it has done for me and the team, it has definitely focused us and allows us to hone right into childhood wounds. If you don't mind putting the mind map up, thank you. Childhood wounds, which there are 5 of. There's obviously physical abuse, there is verbal, emotional abuse, there is sexual abuse, and then there's neglect and smothering. And all of these wounds of childhood form a blueprint, an imprint on the child, causing that child to soak in these wounds. Remember, children are permeable, they don't have boundaries, and once they soak in these wounds, they react. We react with fear and anxiety and somatic issues and so on and so forth. And so that we have to understand that when a system goes wrong, when the pillars, our parents, do not give us the emotional goodies, as I like to call them, then we get compromised in terms of our mental health. And panel 1 represents these wounds of childhood. The light in the background represents our whole, complete self. And then those little shadows represent all the bruises, all the wounds, all of the ways that we have been shadowed over so that we are left without really manifesting the best of our best. So how does narcissism begin, and why is it a system of vampiring? Well, narcissism begins from a mind map point of view when the parent puts themselves before the child, and this can happen in many ways. So perhaps the parent is using the child to fill mom or dad's emotional needs. Perhaps the child is being used to buffer a bad marriage, and the child is then used as a scapegoat and idealized instead of the husband and wife being interdependent and healthily interdependent. They use the child to become the parentified child and be the main other partner in the equation. A lot of different things can create a system gone wrong. So starting with the concept of vampiring, the vampiring occurs right from the get-go when mom or dad or both, usually starting with mom, is not healthy herself, or he's not healthy himself, and the family system's not healthy, and they're coming from the consciousness of needing emotional fuel from that little tiny human being. And of course, that human being is needing emotional fuel. So it's kind of like the reverse system. It's an 180-degree system reversed, whereby the child is not getting their needs met. And pretty soon they either learn how to use the world and objectify the world and copycat this particular blueprint, or sometimes they become codependent and figure out that they have to hang on to the bond at any cost and people please and so on. And so one thing that I've definitely noticed is that whenever we do a show on narcissism, there are so many people who write in or call in and express pain and extreme surprise to discover that this was a wound of childhood, because we don't always think of wounds of childhood as our parents trying to, let's say, make us do ballet lessons because they themselves didn't have ballet lessons or make us into a doctor or lawyer or engineer because they want us to. We don't necessarily see that as a wound, nor do we see helicopter parenting necessarily as a wound. We might see it as, oh, my parents are just being a little bit overprotective, nor do they see sibling rivalry as anything more than, well, it's so sad that my brother's mean to me. And if you've watched the episodes on sibling rivalry, you can see that when siblings rival, it's usually because parents have set them up to do so. And they set children up to rival with each other because then they become the main squeeze. So that way, mom can make one a golden child, and maybe the others can become scapegoats or flying monkeys for the parents. And this is a really, really terrible system. So I thought I would start by reading a little bit from my book, Be the Cause, Healing Human Disconnect. And here again in the new version, I'm on panel number 8 right now, but it's a different version of panel number 8 because of instead of the light shining through, I'm sorry, panel 7. Back to, yes, right. So when the orbs, meaning the different pieces of the self or the interconnection of relationships come together, what's supposed to ideally happen is that 1 + 1 creates more than the 2 phenomenon. It's supposed to create the +2 phenomenon. And the light is a metaphor for something better happening than just me or you. Because of me and you together, the world is a better place. So when there is the vampiring model, meaning the parents need the children, the world isn't a better place because the mother doesn't feed those emotional nutrients to the child, emotional nutrients that John Bowlby talks about, such as eye contact and skin contact and breastfeeding and mirroring and stay-at-home mothering and parents that are calm and parents that don't use substances to an abusive level, hopefully, and parents who stay together. These are emotional nutrients, and these pillars are supposed to keep us and our babies strong and safe. So let me just go back to page 151 in my book, Be the Cause, Healing Human Disconnect. Remember, you can get a free PDF copy. And I think we have a call-in, and I'll read you the rest in a minute. And hi, who is calling? You still there? Hello? Did we lose the caller?
Hello.
Hello. Hi, what's your name, please?
Erica.
Hi, Erica. How you doing?
I'm okay, thanks. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, I can hear you okay. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay, and where are you calling from, Erica?
From Victoria.
Oh, nice. Okay, yeah, I've talked about being an ex-Canadian, so it's nice to talk to a Canadian.
Totally.
Yeah, so tell me how you relate to vampiring, narcissism, and what the Freud is going on with you in your relationship to the topic.
Yeah, that's a good question, what the Freud's going on.
Right.
Basically, I grew up in a family where my dad, is narcissistically abusive.
Okay. So describe what you mean by that.
Really controlling, manipulative. I was used as a puppet, basically, to do everything that he wants. I wasn't allowed to make my own decisions. I basically felt as though I was made to meet his needs in every single way possible.
Right.
And then also he just would project all his pain and unresolved trauma onto me, which is all from mostly like going through World War II,
Mm-hmm.
growing up in Nazi Germany, and
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
so it felt like a war zone growing up, basically.
Is he a Holocaust survivor?
No, he grew up in East Germany. He his dad actually was forced to be a Nazi,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
and got killed in the war, and his
Mm-hmm.
sister got killed in the war, and a lot of
Mm.
loss, a lot of chaos that he had to endure,
Okay.
and yeah, he hasn't like, well, he doesn't have the capacity to reflect on his past, and
And he's still
uh,
alive?
yeah, he is. Yeah,
And mhm.
he's 78 now. Yeah.
Okay. And what about your mother? What was she doing in this dynamics?
She's like quite codependent. She My mom and dad never got along well at all. My dad would just his form of communicating was just raging all the time. So
Okay.
it was either at me or my mom, and so she would she would just do her best. Like she would try to look after the family and like do grocery shopping, and
Okay.
like would be try to be supportive, but also at the same time like she felt really stuck in the relationship with my
Mm-hmm.
dad, and uh it was just causing a lot of distress in the family. But
Okay.
she thought that like if she left, like maybe he would try to like, I don't know, like kill her or something, or
Wow. Okay.
hurt
That's
me
extreme
or hurt the
control.
kids.
Okay.
Yeah. So, and
Extreme
she
control.
talked to me about this as well
Mm-hmm.
when I was young.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, so like when I would say like, I don't know, 12 years old, telling her that we need to leave like get away from living with this person, and she would say that she's too afraid to leave him because of what he might do.
So I have
So
a question because I want people to understand that there are physical effects of living with people who are narcissistically injured and display narcissistic symptoms. Would you say that your mother looked run down and tired? Was she prematurely aging? Would you say that you saw signs of that?
um not too much. Like she really endured it. Like I didn't notice too much, but yeah, not too much with her. I think I was quite dissociated as well, like up until I was like 18 or so.
Okay.
So I don't even really, it's hard for me to really pinpoint exactly what her experience was.
Okay, so it sounds like her defense mechanism was to become a people pleaser and
Yeah.
to jump when he said how high, and your defense mechanism, I'm now on panel number 5 here, was to dissociate and be mentally checked out and basically not be there as much as possible. Is that correct?
Yeah, yeah, definitely. And
Okay.
like I'm realizing a lot has been coming up surrounding like my dad. Like I'm named after his sister that got killed during the war, and like
Oh, wow.
he lost his mom when I was born. He lost his job when I was born. So all these
Boy.
things, I'm basically a living trigger of all his trauma,
Yeah, I
basically.
think you're right about that. So he looks at you and he
Hmm.
thinks about his deceased sister and the job that he lost. What else did he lose? Did you say?
His mom
His
when I was
mom.
born.
Okay.
Yeah.
So yeah, you must trigger him. So can you see how his lack of health for in so many ways has
Yeah.
actually sucked out of everybody in the family. You sucked out of your mother, sucked out of you. Do you have any do you have any siblings?
Yeah, I have a sister and she's 8 years older, but she doesn't have her perception of her childhood and growing up is completely different than mine,
Mm-hmm.
uh, and she also she was born during a time when my dad wasn't as abusive.
I see.
Yeah.
How old is your
Yeah.
sister?
She's 34 and I'm
Oh,
26.
34. Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So, how do you relate to the concept of being vampired? Describe how it might feel in a person's body to experience living with a narcissist and how it zaps energies, psychological energy out of a person, physical energy.
Hmm.
What's your experience of this?
Yeah. Yeah, basically it would be like having my dad like unloading all his energy and trauma onto me, and like
Okay.
during that process he'd be sucking out it all from me as well, and it would just be so exhausting and draining
So
to just be in this
exhausting.
like,
Right.
yeah, constant state of fight, flight, freeze.
Fight, flight, freeze. That's a great way to put it. And the sad thing is that even though he's sucking this energy out, if you look at panel number 7, and instead of seeing that beautiful light coming from the center, think of the narcissistic wound as a hole in the soul. And
Yeah.
whatever you put in there just it endlessly drops to this endless, bottomless pit, and you can never
Hmm.
give enough, and you can never love enough, and you can never please enough. So that's where the
Yeah.
depletion comes, right, Erica?
Yeah, yeah, definitely.
So what kind of boundaries did you learn to put up to help yourself not be overtaken by all of this?
Well, I grew up without boundaries for the
Okay.
most part.
Mm-hmm.
So there were that what I went through growing up definitely like permeated in different ways into my life,
Okay.
in terms of how I perceived myself and what I allowed other people to do to me.
And
Um,
okay, just curious, have you read the book? Do you know a little bit about negative core beliefs and how they get encoded into the fiber of your being?
can you say that again, please?
Have you read the book Be the Cause, Healing Human Disconnect? Have you
No,
read
I
it?
haven't read the book, but I've
Okay.
watched a lot of your videos.
Okay, so there's a particular video about negative core beliefs, and now I'm referring to panel 3, encoding. When we're in the presence of people who vampire our energy, we
Hmm.
often we often come to many conclusions like I'm not lovable, or I'm not enough, or I'm not important, or anything along those lines. Because you see,
Hmm.
children especially make meaning out of the way they're treated. So rather than
Yeah.
understanding that there's something off with my dad or off with my mom, they feel that there's something wrong with them. And that's where
Yeah.
the energy turns inward and points fingers at oneself rather than identifying the cause. So, what do you think your negative core beliefs landed to be as a result of this dysfunctional system that you were living in?
Hmm. Yeah. That I'm a bad person, I'm
Mm-hmm.
unworthy, I should be
Yeah.
punished.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah, basically that I'm deserving of everything bad and unworthy of
Okay.
anything good. Love is not something to be trusted, because I've had it used as a form of abuse.
Yeah.
Um, so basically, I fear like a lot of things, and yeah, I don't know. And I think like also, it's hard for me to trust myself and my own experience from like so much gaslighting and invalidation.
Okay.
And like, oh, I find that I go into these kind of like, I don't know, I'd say like complex PTSD, like trigger
Yes.
states that are,
Yes.
yeah,
Yes. And the
they're,
go ahead.
sorry. Oh, okay. Yeah, that are like basically, if I were to ask myself, like, how old is the part of me that's reacting right now?
Mm-hmm.
A lot of the times I would say like an infant or a
Yeah.
baby. And what I feel like I need is like love and nurturance and security and just to be held. And it's hard to like have those needs met because like I find that people are like, oh, self-love and oh, you need to self-soothe and blah, blah, blah. And my question or at least my internal reaction a lot of the times was like, would you tell a baby to, just look after itself?
You
and
can't. That's
you
exactly right. And babies, first of all, they're pre-verbal, meaning they don't understand words. And so you can't tell a baby to self-soothe. It's an outside-in model of a system gone right. So the parents are supposed to feed the baby the unconditional love and the eye contact, the mirroring, the skin-to-skin contact. And if we don't get that, then we're vulnerable, and we're vulnerable in two directions. And this is what I want you to look after yourself about, that number one, that you don't repeat this pattern and pair up with somebody who has these narcissistic qualities and suck you dry even further. That's something that you want to look into, correct? And then you need to work on your boundaries, obviously, so that you can recognize who is giving to you. Panel 7, the 1 + 1 equals more than 2 phenomenon. At least 1 + 1 = 2 phenomenon. That's parked in neutral. It would be nice for you to be around people who actually fed you emotionally and you fed them. That's a relationship of growth and evolution, okay? And so the relationship that you were in with your primary caregivers, number one, your mother was blueprinting codependency, people-pleasing, and your father was zapping the energy out of you. And so, of course, it's going to have effect on your energy, your psyche, your core belief. So I'm going to read a little bit from the book. By all means, feel free to call the Psychological Healing Center and be part of the Narcissistic Recovery Abuse Group led by Yitz Epstein. Feel free to call me or any team member if you feel that you want to partake of the mind map journey. And for those of you who have gone through the mind map journey or who have purchased the video, just remember that please pay the book forward, okay, so that others can learn of the system, and let's get it right this generation. So, Erica, thank you so much for calling in, and I'm just going to read a little bit about vampiring, okay?
Okay, yeah, thank you very much for listening and letting me share.
Of course, my pleasure.
All right.
Okay, good night. Okay, page 151 of Be the Cause, Healing Human Disconnect. Synergy is what happens when we interconnect. That is the panel 7. It is the 1 + 1 = 3 phenomenon. In other words, when two people come together, a greater third entity is created because of their affiliation with one another. Just like a magnifying glass increases the intensity of the heat, healthy synergistic relationships magnify creativity and productivity, reducing stress and workload. When we interconnect, we can create what is known as the whole is bigger than the sum of its parts effects. But sometimes our synergistic attempts don't synergize. Not all interconnection is synergistic and transformational. Vampires or emotional parasites. Vampires, Dracula, Nosferatu, those kids from the Twilight and True Blood are mythological beings that subsist by feeding on the life essence of living creatures. They appear all through literature, art, and entertainment, and disturbingly enough, also in the real world, and I'll just add to that line, even more disturbingly, in our own families. When I talk about vampires and parasites, I speak of those people in your life who pull from you, drain you, suck the life out of you, and feed on your vitality and light. They are infiltrated souls who must, with their own darkness, deplete your luminosity in order to survive and flourish. They are the mothers who leech from their children, reversing the role of giver and receiver. They are the narcissists whose selfishness require constant attention and stroking. They are the codependent individuals who, void of the nourishment of their own mother's milk, are ever hungry and thirsty for the lifeblood of others. These creatures of the night and day are to be avoided at all costs, or at least healed if possible. They will zap your energy and take your emotional treasures for their own. So again, this is a call-in show, everyone. So 323-843-2826. Please call in and let's talk about the vampire effect of narcissism upon you. I know that there are a lot of people out there who are really, really tired physically, emotionally. It's almost like they have had that lifeblood sucked out of them. And here are some traits of an emotional vampire. Emotional vampires are all around you. They are often the low-energy, needy, abandoned, rejected seekers and hoarders of constant attention, nourishing, and reassurance. They are never satisfied. That's what I mean by the hole in the soul. Dr. Judith Orloff, an assistant psychological professor of psychiatry at UCLA, suggests tuning into your physical reactions, such as a tightening in the chest, tiredness, or headaches after interactions with certain people. This is how you can tell that you have been bitten. Don't allow yourself to fall asleep in their poppy field. So in my practice, I encounter people who are very loving, very empathic, I would call them highly sensitive people. And lo and behold, they are great bait for a narcissistic abuse and narcissistic vampiring effects. Why? Because their boundaries are down. Why? Because they really believe that that person is going to be nourished by their love, and contrary to their desire to form a united, healthy, interconnected relationship, they end up spinning out and feeling drained. And oftentimes they will stay in the relationship because they keep thinking that by giving more and more and more, that eventually the person will turn around and appreciate the goodness that they are giving out. And this hardly ever happens. I don't know of too many people who then come back in and say, guess what? It's payday. My husband or my wife finally gave it all back to me. It doesn't happen that way. Why? Because there's a hole in the soul. And the hole in the soul demands constant feeding. And so there's never going to be that payback. And so please, I do want to hear from you. 323-843-2826 and call in. So, how to be a vampire slayer. So if you're sick and tired of this, and if I'm talking to you out there who has experienced this drainage, so to speak, here's how to be that vampire slayer. Besides sheer avoidance, you can protect your psyche by recognizing the gradual depletion of your energy and limiting your contact with that person or persons. Good boundaries are key to making sure that you are able to screen and filter them out. And a lot of people have gone no contact with their parents. Some people have gone light contact with their parents, and now this is where you can be the cause. You could be the cause of a better outcome for yourself by deciding where that boundary is. Because ultimately, because you weren't put as number one, you can now decide to put yourself as number one and stop the bleeding out process. Selflessness, generosity, and altruism each have their limitations. You must make a sacred commitment to protect yourself from these invaders and balance your kindness, unselfishness, and nurturing with self-protection. And also mind who you're giving your kindness and nurturance to, because if you give it to the black hole, well, It's just dropping into a black hole, and no light will ever come out of that. Your best defense mechanism is to become like a semi-permeable cell membrane, allowing in only good emotional nutrients and screening out the poisons. So how many out there that are listening to this show have felt drained? How many out there listening to the show have grown up with controlling parents who have dominated, threatened, gaslit them? There are so many episodes up there, so you can do more research on this. Shows that I've posted on gaslighting, shows that I've posted on narcissistic wounds by mother and father, and I suggest that you watch them so you get psychoeducated. And I think we have another caller. So hi, you are on the couch with Dr. Judy, and what is your name, please?
Kim.
Hi, Kim. Nice to talk to you. Where are you calling from?
New York.
Oh, great. So it must be late there. Let's see, 11:30. Thank you for staying up and calling in. So what's going on in your life, and how do you identify with this topic?
Well, I just wanted to say a thank you to Dr. Judy. Couldn't get all personal, so thank you anyways.
You're so sweet. You're very welcome. It's an honor, and without getting too personal, if you can kind of maybe say one or two things about how learning this material or listening to the shows has helped you to set better boundaries and to self-care better. If you don't mind sharing that would be great.
Well, I've been on a long journey, and I just wanted to tell Dr. Judy that she is helps me so much in the journey.
You're welcome. I am Dr. Judy, by the way. I don't know if you know that, but I am.
Oh, no. I'm sorry. Oh, my gosh. Okay. Wow.
You're talking to her, so you're welcome. You're welcome, and you're welcome. Yes, of course.
Oh, my gosh. I'm so sorry.
That's okay. It's okay.
I thought it was a filter on your radio show or something. I don't know.
No, I'm back. I've been out for a few weeks. I know we've had a few reruns, and Yitz Epstein was sitting in and doing a great job, and very appreciated by the audience. But I am live, I'm here.
Listen. No, listen. Mm-hmm. I have been through hell and back by these people, and I have now just recently gained a whole new perspective on life. And I just want to thank you, because you are one of the people that allowed me to come to that journey to get there. And you don't even know it. That's why I called.
That's really so sweet of you. It's so appreciated. And never, Kim, really, never in my. Yeah, you're welcome. I never dreamed when I created this mind map, it truly was for healing global disconnect. I never dreamed it would be my psychological model, and I laugh about this. I know I've talked about it on other shows where people have said, Judy, you're crazy. This is a harebrained idea. What are you talking about? And I don't know what and why, but I did keep going with it and believing it. And first it was a theoretical belief, that really makes sense. Wounds of childhood, they embed in you.
In the forefront of this whole explosion of everybody understanding what we've been dealing with.
Well, I hope that my contribution to the human race is to really offer a system of understanding, and not only a system of understanding, a system of healing, because if we don't bust this bad game of life now, what we're headed for is what Dr. Murray Bowen describes as a total breakdown, because he's the doctor who talked about the multi-generational transmission process. And so if we don't get to it now, if we don't psychoeducate parents, if we don't teach, and so that's why I'm telling everybody.
I agree with all of this, but honestly, don't you think it's a little late in the game?
No, because we're still having babies. And if people can just get it right now, and if they can heal their past so that they could feel cleaner and clearer in the now, and then have a better next generation of education so that the parents would know to give those narcissistic supplies to their baby. Dr. John Bowlby talks about all of this. Attachment parenting. Stay home. Give your baby the eye contact, the skin contact, the breastfeeding. No kidding. It is what...
No, they were using iPads to keep the babies entertained.
That's human disconnect. If you notice, the book is called Healing Human Disconnect. Healing Human Disconnect. Okay, if we don't heal human disconnect, we're going to be disconnected from. And when we disconnect from, then then all kinds of psychoviruses can get in, and we're going to, instead of evolving, we're devolving. So that's why, if you are listening, then get a free copy of the book and send it. You know, one thing that has been coming up lately is 3 people in the last month have been talking to me about getting the mind map into the prison system, because all the people in prison obviously have been wounded, and so many of them are going to be getting out. So rather than spending all of this money on having them have a high rate of recidivism and then bringing them back into jail, why don't we then give them a free copy of this book, okay, and have them start learning about healing their childhood wounds. Now, many of them won't. We know that. Many of them are very far gone. We know that. But I'm talking about switching to the subject of the next generation.
Yes, and it only takes one.
Right.
Dr. Judy,
That's right.
It only takes one person to pass on a message of love, caring, understanding.
Exactly.
And being kind.
Yes, and that
one person.
Yes, and that's panel 7, when we interconnect, because certainly I can't do this on my own. I have a system, I have a message, but I need you guys also. I need to interconnect and interface with everyone so that we can all have the same philosophy of this united.
And then hopefully we have a future.
That's correct.
Right?
That's correct. Exactly. So really appreciate your kindness and acknowledgement.
Okay, wait, before you go, I just want to say my biggest turnover in all of my whole life of being abused was just this past New Year's.
What happened?
And I've been researching like a freak for like 3 years.
Okay.
To figure everything out, to get better.
Yeah.
And like I said, you were a big part of that. But I finally decided that I had to go through every card writing. I'm a writer. I love to write. I'm a good writer, okay? And I kept notes from 300 years ago, letters, everything. I mean, And I kept reading through them, reminiscing, and I finally decided this new year was going to be different.
Yeah.
And I took everything I wrote, everything, cards, whatever, and I had a little bonfire in the rain on New Year's Eve and got rid of it and decided I can't change my past.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I'm not going to be sorry anymore for my past.
You're not going to marinate in all that pain. In a way,
I wish I could have done it fucking, 15 years ago.
Yep. And the thing is that you were really, in the way I see it, you were trying to clean the slate by doing that bonfire and rebooting your system. Pardon me?
I got rid of photos of my mother. I have a couple I saved, but for the most part, I burned them.
Well, you got to do whatever it takes for you to freshen that screen, so to speak. So ultimately, panel number 7 is the paradigm shift where your boundaries are better, where your lens of perception is better.
I'm working on that.
Yeah, we all are working on it. The cracked lens of perception. Though. Yes.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So.
Oh my gosh, the mind map is honest. I think it was the groundbreaking moment for me when just the first couple chapters, like just the first, like it was groundbreaking. Like, oh my God, it is a pattern. I'm going in loops.
That's right. That's why I call the show WTF, because if you don't clean up your past, right?
When I was watching you a while ago, you had some guy. He was pretty cool, and he was helping you out. Is he gone?
He's gone. He's gone. Yeah, I think you're talking about Walt, my host from a year and some ago. Yeah, we're no longer doing the show together.
I know.
Yeah.
For a while.
Yeah.
Okay, well, I'm sorry to bring that up.
No, it's okay. It's okay. It's all good. I'm going in a different direction.
It was you and him that made me open my mind.
Yes, and
but you mostly.
And I do appreciate Walt and acknowledge him for the contribution that he did make. I know
he tried it.
I
know.
And at this point, I think my focus is on going deeper and more global, and to bring on the team members and people who.
I'm gonna sing your praises, Dr. Judy.
What's that?
I'm gonna sing your praises.
It's very sweet.
I'm gonna pass your name on to everyone I can.
Thank you, and forward a free copy of the book. You can always download it off of my website and have it.
No. I'm like so happy with where I'm at.
Yeah.
It's like it's so great to transform from that.
Well, thank you. I really, really appreciate it. And feel free to call the clinic anytime. I'm going to read a little bit more about the recovery from vampiring, okay? And call the clinic anytime.
Well, my ex-husband just died, and he was another one. Of course, I married him thinking everything was great, love bombing, etc.
It doesn't work out that way.
My mother.
Yeah.
But like in my old days, like I'm even thinking 3 months ago, I would call you as a complete victim of these vampires.
Well, you don't sound like one.
So amazing. I'm not that.
No, you don't sound like that.
Not anymore.
Not anymore. So I'm gonna move on and get out a little bit more information. And if you need to connect, please do. Okay. And thank you so much for calling in. Really, really appreciate it, Kim.
Love you, girl.
Okay, love you too. Bye. Oh, so sweet. Thank you, Kim. Okay, interconnection through self-compassion. Well, that's what we need after this experience. Do we have another caller? Okay, I'll take the caller. We have a few more minutes, and then I'll do my Shrink That Tune. Hi. You are on the couch with Dr. Judy. And what's your name, please?
I'd just like to remain anonymous.
Yeah, I'll call you. That's fine. Or make up a name. It's all good. Okay. And what part of the world are you calling from?
I'm calling from the Southwest area.
Okay. So what the Freud is going on with you?
Oh, wow. So this, I see the show is more about gaslighting. Is that right?
Well, it's more about the vampiring effects of how we're vampired when we we get in association with a narcissist, a person with highly narcissistic traits, and how they zap the energy out of us. And vampiring, gaslighting is part of it for sure, because it makes us feel crazy. So go ahead, share your experience, ask away, and go ahead.
Yeah, I think with the vampiring effect, I feel like just such a loss of energy, and I just went to sleep a lot.
Yeah, remember I just read from my book about Dr. Judith Orloff and pay attention to your body. That's it. I can tell you that when I'm around people like that, I feel it in my body. I might get backaches or neck aches or feel really drained. I might feel like there's a dark cloud walking into the room, like that. So go ahead. What's your experience of this, and how did you get so infected, and who's infecting you with all this energy?
Wow. Yes. My mother, my sister, and I went out with someone who was, and I don't know how this happened, because my experience with this is with females, really, my mother and my sister being very much narcissists.
So describe what was your first few years of life like? Was she smothering, controlling? Was she emotionally abandoning? Was she critical? Did she hit you? Tell me a little bit about what you went through so that people can understand how this gets foundationally laid down.
Well, from what I know is that my mother she breastfed me for 6 months.
Okay.
And she used to sing me. She's from Ireland originally.
Okay.
She used to sing to me a beautiful song with my name.
Okay.
But I have no memory of really feeling at all connected with her.
Why do you think?
To me, she seemed like a ghost figure.
I mean, it so far sounded good. You know, she sang to you, she breastfed you. So what was the disconnect? What was it?
That's something that I think she was depressed.
Okay. You know, that's very yeah.
Her mother was not at all. I can't see her as a narcissist. In fact, her mother in Ireland was very much close to me.
Your grandmother.
My grandmother.
So did you say that your grandmother died?
Well, she died. It was some years ago when I was an adult, though.
I see. Okay.
But she was also a mother figure to me, very much.
Okay.
As was as my father's mother was very much a mother figure to me, and I had a nanny as well who truly loved me and was a mother figure to me. And she also told my mother that she gave my mother she told her that she didn't know how to be a mother.
I see. Okay.
In a kind way, because she said, you know, your children run right past you.
Well, you bring up a really...
They shouldn't.
You know,
they shouldn't run towards me or towards the grandmothers. They should run towards you first. And that's what my nanny told her. And my nanny was somebody I was left and ran towards.
So who did you run towards?
My nanny.
Your nanny. So it sounds like you were most bonded with her. And so even when parents do the right things, there's a really interesting nuance that you're talking about. So, you know, I talk about breastfeeding and contact, and it sounds like your mother did a lot of those things, except that there was still a disconnect, and that's what we have to discover. And the disconnect was her emotional disconnect. So it was like what you said, she was like a ghost. Maybe the lights were on, but nobody was home, and she didn't have the emotional wherewithal. She herself didn't have that connectivity to give to you, and so you felt that, and it must have left you feeling very alone in the world. And so therefore your nanny might have been like a kind of like a primary caregiver after all. Okay, it makes sense?
Yeah, absolutely. She was very much.
She was very much so.
A person I could really count on and speak to.
Right. So what you have to watch out for is that you don't pair up with people who have very little to give, and that you watch out for negative core beliefs such as I'm not worthy or good enough, these kinds of things. Do you have a copy of my book?
I do. Yeah, I've read it a few times.
Okay. And of course, anytime you want to reach out, please, you're invited to call. Okay. And this is a really interesting twist on everything, because it's not like your mother used and abused you, okay, but more like she wasn't present, which leaves one with a narcissistic injury because you weren't emotionally connected to. Okay, so maybe be really vigilant that you don't pick partners that are not emotionally connected. That would be your potential Achilles heel. And I see that we're just...
The most part.
Pardon me?
Yeah, I haven't done that. There was one maybe where I did, and I just never experienced it because I never experienced narcissism from a male. Really.
Okay, so that would be something to look out for. And I now see that we are at the end of the show, so I want to thank you very much for calling in, and for all of you listeners calling in, being a part of the process of growth and evolution. And for those of you who are Mind Map graduates, I do have a once a month Mind Map graduate group in Sherman Oaks. We meet every Tuesday, the first Tuesday of every month, 7 to 8:30. For those of you who are local, please call me and attend. I'd love to see you. And again, remember that we have every possible way that you can learn the mind map and process through these feelings so that you don't have to suffer the narcissistic injuries that were projected on you from early childhood. So I want to go to a minute of Shrink That Tune. I know we just have a couple of minutes. I'll see if I could read it off the board. And it is a song called... it's by Metallica. Unforgiven is the name of the song. One of my favorite songs. New blood joins this earth, and quickly he's subdued. Through constant pain, disgrace, the young boy learns their rules. With time, the child withdraws in this whispering boy done wrong. Deprived of all the thoughts, the young man struggles on and on. He's known a vow unto his own that never from this day his will they'll take away. Okay, so this person is in a hopeless state that even his will be robbed from him. What I've felt, what I've known, never shine through in what I've shown. So this manifestation is not manifesting. The light is not coming through. Never be, never seen. Won't see what might have been. So not mirrored. What I felt, what I've known, never shine through what I've shown. Never free, never me. So I dubbed the unforgiven. They dedicate their lives to running all of his. He tries to please them all. That's the codependent people pleaser. This bitter man, he is through his life the same. He's battled constantly. This fight he cannot win. This is a person who's just about vampired out. This fight he cannot win. A tired man they see no longer cares. So this is somebody who has been sucked dry. I love this song, and listen to it. I'm sure you've heard it. And so remember, we're here. Call in. Let us know what you're needing. And it's been an honor to be a part of healing your human disconnect and answering any questions and psychoeducating everyone who's listening in. Thank you so much. Good night, everyone.